Welcome to Ecommerce Revamped, where we break down the hottest trends, insider tips, and strategies shaping the future of e-commerce. Powered by Miva, the engine behind seamless online stores. Now here's your host, Rob Stanley.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Ecommerce Revamped. I'm Rob Stanley, your host, and today we got a really good one. A lot of people, this is an area when you're running a business or starting a business that people forget about. And I don't know why they forget about it, because I'm going to share a story later on telling you on why you definitely need to be involved in this. So today I have on the podcast Ashlin Hadden from Ashlin Hadden Insurance, and we're going to talk about how to unlock smart savings to boost your e-commerce revenue. So long story short, this is insurance and this is needed. And we're going to tell you why. And wait till you hear some of these stories. But let's get Ashlin into the studio here. Hi, Ashlin. How are you?
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. Like always, always fun to have on. It's been actually a while. So
It's been
so
a
cool
long while. It's been a long
it has
while.
been a long while. You know, this is such a key topic that people overlook when they're starting a business. I feel like they forget to trademark things and they forget insurance. That's like the two things I think they forget all the time. So, why don't we
Those are
start
probably
this?
one of the biggest risks, right? I mean,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why don't we start this off with what are some of the key insurance types that e-commerce sellers are going to need when they're getting started?
yeah, I think everybody kind of goes back to when we're like we first got our driver's license, right? And we're like, hey, we're gonna buy a car, and then we go, and the next thing is our parents tell us, hey, you need insurance. Or we buy a house and we say, okay, hey, now we have to get it insured. I think everybody remembers those big things to buy insurance, but when they open a business that maybe they don't have a brick and mortar and they're just selling online, that they forget I need insurance.
Mhm.
They think that they're safe because they sit behind this computer screen, right? So there's a lot of things that we need to start out with, like going back to the basics. Um, our biggest thing that we're going to need is our general liability. That's going to be what we do or say as a business. And then we're all selling products online, right? It could be a chapstick to a mug to a car part. I mean, whatever it ends up being, there's a product that we're putting into the hands of the consumers.
Mhm.
So, majority of the platforms that we're selling on are going to require that you have that general liability, what we do or say as a business, and product liability, what our business does to harm somebody. So, let's say we're going with the chapstick. Okay, Rob, I bought you this great chapstick. Okay. And I'm going to put
Yep,
this on the
absolutely.
platform, and I'm going to say that this chapstick is going to make your lips look smooth and sexy. Um, and I buy this chapstick and I said, Rob, this is BS. This is not making my lips smooth and sexy. That's going to be general liability. That's what I do or
Okay.
say, false advertisement type of stuff. Next, I take this and I put this on my lips, and my lips like blow up and I end up in the ER, and I have allergic reaction to whatever you put in this grape chapstick. That's going to be product liability. That's what our products do to harm someone. So, off the gate, you got to have your general liability and product liability. But it depends on what else you're doing. The biggest thing that is going on right now is everybody is going online trying to save 15% in 5 minutes by letting some AI bot tell you what you need. It's really scary right now because there's a lot of
Yeah.
things that you do that AI bot doesn't know about. So the biggest thing I would say is making sure that you're using a broker that knows your industry, that knows the online retail, so they can build you a policy that fits for you. Because there's
Absolutely.
other coverages that we might need. We might own a warehouse and we need coverage for the warehouse. We might be using a home office and we've got $60,000 of product in our basement that we think our homeowners is going to cover. Um, we might use our personal auto to run business errands. So it's really hard to say, hey, you're going to need this without really knowing what the risk
Yeah.
is. But everyone who is selling anything online should have general liability and product liability.
Absolutely. I think you hit it on the nose. So listen, any of the Miva sellers out there, or just any sellers in general, e-commerce sellers, you're going to need at least those two basics, especially unless you're a service, right? Then you probably don't need a product liability, because service probably doesn't need it, but you need general liability. So, Ashlin is definitely the expert at this, especially in the e-commerce world. She's been around the e-commerce sellers, understands it, knows what they're doing. She's even sold herself the whole product line of stuff. Which we can talk about a little bit later. But so, Ashley, let's say that Miva sellers, they have a small warehouse, they have a small office, they've got the general liability, they have product liability, and they're selling on Miva's website. Now they decide, okay, I'm going to venture out. I want to sell on Amazon or maybe eBay. Is there any specific platform insurance that's required for some of those others when they venture outside of, let's say, the Miva
Yeah,
platform?
great question. Yes, there's a lot of platforms that do have specific requirements. For example, Amazon has requirements if you're going to be moving to their platform. They have terms of service. Everybody pulls their hair out at Amazon's terms of service. But in that terms of service, it says that you will have insurance and you will maintain insurance for the life of the policy. Nobody reads it, but they have now come out and said, well, we're not going to police this. Like, we're not going to make you send us the certificate of insurance until you hit 10,000 a month for 3 months. So you can kind of skirt underneath it sometimes. If you're not selling a bunch, I don't recommend it. It is in the TOS that you have it. So I would just do it from the beginning.
Have it.
Other platforms like Chewy and Walmart.com and Bed Bath & Beyond all have separate requirements based on the category you're selling in. If you're selling in baby, they're going to have different requirements than automotive versus general merchandise, which again is why you need a broker who knows this industry, because we have all of those requirements and know exactly what types of coverages that you need for each one of those platforms. But a good thing with that too is some people think that you need a policy for every single one of those platforms, and you don't. We can create that policy for you for all of the different platforms as long as they're the same entity. But let's say you have ABC company that you're selling on the Miva platform, and you're like, well, I don't want ABC company to sell on Amazon, and I'm going to create XYZ company with a separate EIN, then you're going to need two policies. But if you have the same business structure, we can do one policy for all of those platforms.
Gotcha. So I think you kind of actually went over the next question I was going to ask. And that is, I've seen people where they went out and just talked to the same person that gets their auto and home insurance to get insurance for their e-commerce or their business, basically their e-commerce business.
Yeah.
And that is not the right way to go. They're not going to understand it. And this is why we have Ashlin on, is to talk about why you want to go with her, because like you just said, that your team and everybody knows these different platforms, what it's going to be required to have it. What I'd love you to do is give us an example of somebody who maybe either didn't have general liability insurance or product liability insurance, and what happened.
Yeah. I love my stories, right?
You do. They're good. You should see the
We
slides.
do. We
They're
do
fun.
get some good ones. We do get some good ones. I think the one that I like to tell the most is I was working with this seller who just came to us, but they were crushing it in the baby product space. Their sales were skyrocketing. They thought they had everything covered, and they got hit with a lawsuit. And that safe baby product that they thought that they were selling wasn't safe after all. They had absolutely zero liability insurance. They thought that their manufacturer had insurance, and their manufacturer said, like, everything's fine, we're good, you don't have to have insurance. We're just going to add you as an additional insured on our policy. Well, spoiler alert, the manufacturer didn't have them added. And they learned the hard way that the manufacturers don't really do what they say they're going to do. So they ended up getting pulled into a lawsuit, was hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees to defend themselves. And they came to us as like, hey, we need your help. Can you insure us now? And it's like, I can't insure a past event, but
Yep.
I can insure a future event. Like, let's get things issued and settled so we can get your policy and enforce so we don't have any issues moving forward. So I love that one because I mean, I hate that they had to go through a claim, but it just shows you the fact that you can't trust anyone to protect your assets the way you can protect your assets. If you would have just got the policy, then those hundreds of thousands of dollars would have been picked up by the insurance company.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like you to kind of cover, because I know this question will probably come up. Um, is there specific categories you guys insure and specific categories you don't insure? And then the second part would be, is there ones that are harder to get insurance for category wise versus others?
Good question. Yes, there is definitely harder categories to get insured than others. If you're just plain old Jane, you're selling mugs and things like that, that's super easy. You could do that in 5 minutes with us, not a problem. But we do have my hit list, is what I call them. Anything that goes on the body, your lotions, things like that, in the body, on the body, for a pet, for a child, anything with an engine, and anything in the adult novelty area, or anything that is potentially forbidden in some states. So you're talking your
Mm.
THCs and deltas and Mary Janes and things like that. So those are our
Yep.
top 7 hit list. Um, in the body, on the body, for a pet, for a child, anything with an engine, um, anything that's pew pew related or
Yep.
yeah. So those types of things. But there has not been, in the 11 years that I've done this now, a product that we have not been able to find some coverage for.
Mm.
Now, you might not like the price of it, but we have been able to get some type of coverage for you.
So I think you brought up a good point, and I want to cover this a little bit more. So let's say even like the food industry, right? You're eating it, or
Yeah.
we were talking even about the chapstick. I'm assuming there's certain what's the right word? Certifications they have to get maybe before they can get the insurance. I know that's not something you necessarily deal with, but is that something that you have to check on, like, or the insurance policy is going to say, hey, do they have a FDA certification? I don't know the
Yep.
different certification. You know what I mean, though. So
Yep.
how does that work?
So the supplements category is really,
Mhm.
really big into this, or anything that's being ingested. Once we can complete the application and we see what you're doing, our underwriters with the different carriers will come back and say, okay, Ashlyn, this one's on the naughty list. I need to see, their ingredients list. I need to see where they're manufacturing it, who's their distributor. Like, there is certain things where the underwriters will come back and ask for certain things. Now, that's not on everything. If I'm just selling homemade freeze-dried pickle chips, maybe not.
Yeah.
But supplements are usually the category that they definitely want to see that kind of stuff. But again, that's our job to tell you what you need, or what we're going to need to show the underwriters. So don't worry about
Yeah.
that. We'll get that handled for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. When I come back, I'm going to share a story about not having product liability. This is before I knew Ashlyn, by the way, not having product liability and what happened right after this commercial break.
Looking to take your e-commerce business to the next level? Meet Miva, the platform powering seamless online stores with the flexibility you need to grow. From custom solutions to user-friendly tools, Miva helps you create unforgettable shopping experiences. Ready to transform your business? Visit miva.com/podcast and see what's possible.
Yeah, so head on over to miva.com/podcast. We got all kinds of really cool free downloadables, ebooks, things like that over there. And I'm on with Ashlin Hadden. We're talking about how to unlock smart savings to boost your e-commerce revenue. So I'm going to tell a quick little story. This is pre-Ashlin Hadden, before I knew Ashlin. Or else I would have had this product liability insurance. Probably should have had it anyways. Selling on Amazon, had a product, customer orders the product, even though it was actually a 1P, meaning we sold it to Amazon. Amazon sold it through from their name directly. And person's installing product, cuts their hand, goes to the hospital, ends up getting a lot of stitches, and basically proceeds after, I think it was only a couple months short of hitting the deadline when they could sue us, creates a lawsuit, comes after us, 3 years being in court, finally settling with them, and basically wasn't quite 100,000, but it was pushing close up to that area. And in 3 years of our life, just headaches. And it was crazy. And we thought maybe we were sort of protected because it was actually Amazon that sold it to them. Nope, we're still the manufacturer of it, even though we weren't technically manufacturing it. We were getting it obviously from China and then reselling it with our name on it, type of thing. So, Ashlin, the reason I bring this up, because this is a good question, is that when your people are insured through you or through the type of insurance they have for selling online, does that automatically mean they're not going to get sued? And what happens when they do get like in a product liability situation? But if I had insurance, explain that scenario to them.
Yeah. No, it does not mean you're not going to get sued. We live in such a litigious country that people are going to sue for any reason. And they're not just going to sue who sold it to them. They're going to sue every single person who has ever touched this product, from the true manufacturer to the person where it landed. So if you're using a 3PL, the person who sold it to them, the person who packaged it, the person who put the label on it, it doesn't matter. These attorneys look for any person who has touched this product, and they're going to list them in that lawsuit and hope that somebody has some money to shut them up. So, no, maybe you would never be liable for $1 million lawsuit if you are just reselling the product. Okay, probably not. But you are going to have to defend yourself. Just like you said, Rob, it took 3 years of your life, probably hundreds of hours of attorney fees, depositions, copies, all of that stuff. And here in Indiana, our attorneys are $575 an hour to defend something like this. You could have a policy for maybe $1,500 a year that would have covered this, if you're like a true manufacturer of the product.
Yep.
So yeah, you might not ever have to be out $1 million, but I'm telling you, you're gonna have to be out $575 an hour for at least 50 to 100 hours to just defend yourself. So yeah, I could say the chances of you getting sued is great, because people don't realize, like, they're keyboard warriors, right? They sit behind a computer and think that they're buying a product from Amazon, and Amazon has tons and tons of money, but maybe Rob doesn't. But they don't know that it's Rob behind it. They think it's Amazon behind there. So
100%.
yeah, you're gonna get sued.
Yep, absolutely. And by the way, whatever you said, 500 and something an hour, that's cheap. I was unfortunately getting sued in California, which is a lot more expensive.
Ugh,
So added about another
probably twice
$300 an
that.
hour. Yeah,
Exactly.
almost twice, just less than twice. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's if we luckily we settled before it actually went to court. So that was, what a just 3 years of your life. Trust me, people don't want to go through this. It was not
You know what I'm saying?
fun.
Like, you pick up the phone, you call the carrier. Yeah, you might have a couple of hours of like, here's what happened, here's the receipts, this is my distributor, this is my manufacturer. You might have a little bit of time vested into it, but then we all know insurance companies don't like to pay claims, right? I mean, I'm in this industry and I will be honest, insurance companies don't like to pay, but they have the best darn attorneys to get you out of this lawsuit. They are going to do it in the way that is the fastest and the easiest to get out of this claim. So let them do their jobs. Pay them to do
Yeah.
their jobs.
Absolutely. And so I think you brought up a good point that I wanted to actually ask you, and that is about the whole insurance. Like, basically, when somebody submits a claim, they'll back you up with and help you with some of the items going on. Whether you're getting sued, as long as you have that policy, right? Like,
Exactly.
you have that policy.
They have the duty to defend. And that's where like a lot of our clients come to us and say, well, I'm never going to get sued. I don't sell anything risky, or I'm not the true manufacturer. Okay, maybe you're not the true manufacturer, but you will get sued and the policy will defend you. They have the duty to defend you. That's what you will use this policy for.
Yeah. Is there any sort of trust built that when somebody's buying a product, is there any like sort of trust, like, hey, I got more trust in this product because they're insured, because they've gone through the process of getting insurance for this? Like, is that something you should advertise? Like, hey, we have insurance, or so what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. Like, there's no place that I've seen online that says like on a platform that says like we're insured.
Sure.
But I do think if you're selling on your own website, that is absolutely something that you could say is, you see like these contractors that say we're bonded. Okay, great. Does that give you a little bit more trust as a consumer that they've got their stuff together?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe
But
I
for
I would
me, it's the
probably
peace of mind of knowing that I don't have to deal with the BS.
exactly. I would be more like personally, like we were talking about the FDA thing. If it's something that requires an FDA, basically, what is it? A certification, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna touch something or put something on me or eat or a supplement or whatever without it being approved somewhere that's official, like approval, right? So yeah, that's definitely something to think about, and when you're buying products. But
I think
what are
another
like? Mhm.
thing, sorry, I hate to interrupt you, but I don't want to forget this one. Um, Another thing that clients don't think about when they're selling online is recalls.
Mhm.
Um, if you are selling something in the food industry or supplements, the FDA has so many recalls. And if you are selling that product and there's an issue, so let's say like um i- iron, and they come out and say all iron that was bought from here to here has got an issue and you need to recall all of this stuff. And if I was selling a supplement that had iron in it during that time frame, you're going to have to pull those off the shelves. Well, a lot of people who do online sales don't realize that you could have insurance for that. There is recall insurance that would help you get those off the shelf, destroy them if they need to be destroyed, reimburse customers for their cost or whatever that is. We see a lot of this on like the motorized type of vehicles. If there was a safety recall on something that had a motor in it, and it can't just be like, hey, Mr. Customer, go throw your scooter in the trash. Um, and that's going to be the way that you dispose of it. And we're going to send you your $400 back. When there's something like that where it needs to be shipped back to the manufacturer and destroyed in a certain economical friendly way, that could be hundreds of dollars in shipping cost. It could be hundreds of thousands of dollars in destruction cost. And
Mhm.
let's say something about, this, you're a huge national brand and a kid got unalived on it. Um, there's going to be huge lawsuits. There's going to be huge kickback on social media. And some of that like recall coverage could actually help restore your brand. Like get out there and help, like a crisis advocate comes out and helps restore that type of stuff. So that's also something that people forget about. That another reason you use a broker is that we can ask those types of questions and say, hey, this might be something that you want to have recall insurance for.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't even think about that, to be honest. But when you're dealing with, say, anything automotive wise, whether it's a side by side or a scooter or something like, there's multiple parts usually involved, especially in a side by side. I mean, brakes might come from one manufacturer, engine parts come from another, roll cage comes from another. Like, there's
Yep.
definitely, a lot of different parts involved, and I didn't even think about that. So I think you brought up a good question. I wanted to ask you in the e-commerce world when for sellers before, not before, when they go to get insurance, is there anything they can do ahead of time that can help keep some of that insurance costs down a little bit? Is there anything that, they can maybe do before they get this insurance to try to lower that cost?
I think the biggest tip that I have to try to help lower the cost is like avoid claims if you can before you come to like to go shopping.
Mm.
A lot of people say, well, I've got insurance for a reason, I'm going to use it. But actually, using your insurance hurts you. I would say only use your insurance if it's something that you can't pay for out of pocket. If I've got something and it's a couple of $1,000s and I can pay for it myself and let that person go away without using the insurance, shut up and pay. Um, if it's catastrophic, absolutely, that is what insurance is for. The insurance is for catastrophic events. Um, it's hard to come to a carrier and say, hey, I want to shop. I need a better rate. I need better coverage. And oh, by the way, I've had 4 claims in the last 4 years. It's hard to find insurance, and it's hard to save you anything if you're using your insurance for like little tiny claims.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then another tip I would say is like, don't overestimate your sales. There's not a trophy at the end for like the most sales for your category. It absolutely could hurt you if you are making your sales up. A lot of the premium is based on your sales. And there's going to be a big difference of $1 million in sales and $10 million in sales. It might look good for you to be like, yeah, Ashlyn, I have $10 million in sales, but I'm going to charge you more. So don't inflate yourself. There's not a prize at the end. Just tell me the truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? I want to talk to you a bit more about kind of how you got into the whole insurance industry. But before that, I got to ask for one more example of an insurance claim that you have. I've seen Ashlyn give presentations, some of the slides and x-rays and crazy things that she's seen. Give us another example that you could give out of why you need this liability insurance or product
Okay.
liability or general liability insurance.
I'm going to go with the warehouse one. I don't know if I've told you this one. So I had a customer come to me. We did his quote. He just moved into a new warehouse. So we did the general liability, the product liability. We did a quote for his business personal property. So all of his inventory in this new warehouse. And then coverage for the warehouse itself. Made a beautiful package, went to him, and he's like, well, I really didn't want to spend this much. So I'm just going to do the general liability and product liability just in case I get sued. That's going to shut up the online platform that I'm selling on. We'll look at the other stuff later. Cool, great. I think it's a bad idea, but I listened and did what he asked me to do. I can't force him to pay for something that he didn't want. About 3 months later, he calls back and he's like, hey, I wanna bind that policy for the warehouse in my inventory. And I said, okay, what's going on? He said, well, I was moving some racking around and there was this pipe and it was in my way. So I had my guys come in and shut the water off and cut the pipe and, teed it off to here and L'd it off to there or whatever. And we put the new racking up. And I came in this morning and I have about 6 inches of water all the way across the bottom of my warehouse. And I have about $500,000 of computer parts that are now 6 inches underwater. So I need to get that insured. So again, I can't insure something that's happened in the past. And I said, Jim, I can't do that. You got to clean it up. You're going to have to take the loss. And then once everything's done, then I'd be glad to insure it the proper way. But it was over $250,000 in loss for him that his policy in total was about $3,500 for the year.
Wow.
So
Wow.
$3,500,
Crazy.
$250,000.
Dang. Yeah, I've definitely not heard that one. So
Yeah.
listen, Ashlyn, why don't you tell everybody kind of how you got into this whole e-commerce insurance world, how they can get a hold of you if they want to, find out more information or get a quote, or maybe they just have questions like, hey, I just put this new piping in and I think it's going to flood before it
I don't
floods.
want any of those. I don't want any of those, Rob.
Go ahead.
I kind of got into it by accident. I did a lot of like the auto, home, and life insurance. And one of my clients came to me and said, hey, I'm selling on Amazon and they want this insurance. Is something you can do? And I was like, I didn't even know people sold on Amazon. This was 10 years ago. I I can't help you. I don't know anything about this. And I basically told him to go away, but he didn't listen and he kept bugging me and bugging me and bugging me. And eventually I listened and I found a carrier that would do it. And he said, "Hey, I'm in this Facebook group and there's 15,000 of us that do this. Can I post your information?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And every phone call that I got was, nobody likes me, nobody listens to me, nobody wants to insure me, nobody's giving me the time of day. And then I got invited to one of their events, and Rob, I fell in love. I don't know if it's just like my heartstrings were like, nobody loves the little red-headed stepchildren. But I fell in love with the community. I fell in love with the whole online side of it. I fell in love with the conferences. I fell in love with the people. And now I eat, sleep, and breathe online retailers and really enjoy the like off the ball kind of stuff where somebody's
Yeah.
like, "Hey, I sell this beep, 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 crazy thing." And it's like, okay, let's find you a carrier who's going to do this. How do we get this insured? So I love helping other business owners. I have a team of 15 women, so pray for me. We've got 15 women in the same office
Amazing women.
all day, every day. It's great. It's wonderful. But you could reach us. We've got a website, ecom.insure. So ecom.insure. Nothing else after that. There's not a .com after, just ecom.insure. We also have insuremyproducts.com. You can email me, sales@ashlinhaddeninsurance.com. You can find me on Facebook, Ashlin D. Hadden, Ashlin Hadden Insurance, Ashlin Protects My Assets. You can find me on TikTok and Twitter and or X and Instagram. So I'm around all over everywhere. I'm at all of the different conferences. And I'm just a real person. So if you're outsourcing and you see this product and you're like, "Ashlyn, I'm thinking about selling this, fidget spinner with knives on the end of it. What do you think?" Shoot me a picture and send it to me on Facebook. I'll answer and say, "Absolutely not." Or, "I hope you got $20,000 for this policy. Let's do it."
That's
So
awesome.
I'm a real person and you can tell I'm super down to earth. So reach out any platform that works best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of conclude, I did actually, I've known Ashlyn many, many years. She's insured many people I know
Before the gray hairs.
before when I had hair. No, I
When
think
you
we
had
didn't
hair.
have that. Well, listen, reach on out to Ashlyn Hadden. Her team is there to help you. They'll answer questions for you. They'll get you the best quote they can. Don't go with some fly by night stuff. You're going to get screwed in the end, and you definitely don't want to do that. So head on over to, Ashlin Hadden Insurance. You can just Google it. You might even have a, there still a MySpace Ashlin Hadden page? So we'll have to bring that
don't
back.
think so. I
We
think
should
it's
bring that
deleted
back.
that one.
Listen, everybody, reach out, and we appreciate Ashlyn coming on and sharing these great stories. And I always like hanging out with Ashlyn, whether it's at an actual event or here on a podcast. It's always great to have her on. And man, we're gonna have to bring you on in another year and hear some of the more recent stories of things going on. There's always just craziness going on in that office with all these different insurance claims and things they have to insure. But she'll insure almost anything. So hit her up.
Yep.
If you sell online, hit her up and definitely ask. So Ashlyn, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate you joining us and sharing all this great information about insurance that people absolutely need to have. And we'll see everybody on the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to Ecommerce Revamped. Ready to take your e-commerce business to the next level? Visit Miva.com for the tools to build seamless online stores and unforgettable customer experiences. Until next time, keep your cards full and your customers happy.